Episode 5, When Everyone Saw Something But No One Asked Why. Welcome to Beyond the Silence, a series exploring the experiences, behaviors, and professional perspectives that can remain hidden beneath the surface of domestic abuse, trauma, and disclosure. I'm the digital holistic therapist, and in today's episode, When Everyone Saw Something But No One Asked Why, we explore professional curiosity and the consequences of fragmented intervention. What can happen when violence is visible, yet individual experiences remain disconnected rather than understood within the wider context of a child's life? If you find this content interesting or informative, please consider subscribing to Beyond the Silence. Your support helps the series continue to explore difficult subjects through evidence, professional perspectives, and lived experience. So let's begin. Suzy recalls violence from early childhood, before she had the developmental understanding or language to comprehend and articulate what she witnessed. On several occasions, her mother attacked her older brother as he returned home from school, striking him repeatedly while he raised his arms to protect himself. Violence and instability were not isolated incidents. They formed part of the environment in which the children grew up. Her mother also drew the children into conflict with their father. On one occasion, as he prepared to return to work, her mother gave him an ultimatum: divorce. At 5 years old, Suzy could not understand the adult circumstances, but she understood that her father might leave. She sat on his suitcases in an instinctive attempt to stop him going, holding on to the parent who represented security when the stability of her family was threatened. Later that year, her brother returned home with a puppy and described how a group of skinheads had kicked it around like a football. His outrage at the cruelty towards the animal contrasted sharply with the violence he inflicted upon Suzy. She recalls him repeatedly battering her head against walls and, on several occasions, throwing a Bowie knife towards her while forcing her against a wall in what he called playing split the kipper. Whatever language was used, these were not harmless games. They involved intimidation, violence, and the potential for serious injury. Calling the behavior playing did not change what was happening. It gave a child no meaningful way to understand or challenge it. Her childhood became increasingly unstable when her mother entered a relationship with a man whose behavior was characterized by violence and alcoholism. He was introduced to the children as an uncle. He assaulted their mother and repeatedly damaged the family home. During one incident, as the children gathered in the hallway to say goodbye while he left for work, Suzy was prompted to kiss him. He sexually violated her by placing his tongue in her mouth. She said nothing. Her silence was not simply an absence of disclosure. She recalls her mother warning her, "You say nothing to no one." She had been explicitly instructed to keep what had happened secret. Within a household characterized by violence, instability, and dependence upon adults, silence became a means of protection. On another occasion, following the arrival of her younger half-brother, their mother entered the children's bedroom during the night and woke them. She lowered the cot side and sat with the baby in her arms as her partner entered the bedroom naked. A room intended for sleep and safety had become another setting in which adult behavior intruded upon the children's vulnerability and boundaries. Suzy was also assaulted by her older sister. At around 5 years old, her sister scolded her with hot tea. Her mother treated the resulting injury with a cold, soaked tea towel, but Suzy recalls no meaningful consequence for the violence that caused it. The injury was treated, the violence was not addressed. At around 11, her sister pushed her down the stairs in front of their younger brother. Her behavior subsequently became increasingly dangerous, including throwing lighted matches through windows and assaulting their mother. Police and social services eventually became involved, including after she barricaded herself in a bedroom with the younger children, and she was subsequently placed in care. At around 14, following her mother's remarriage and the family's move, her older sister attacked Suzy from behind, pulling her hair and repeatedly smashing her face with a piece of wood. Blood poured from her injuries, and the assault stopped only when her mother, stepfather, and Nana arrived. At hospital, a consultant had to re-break and reset Suzy's nose. Despite the seriousness of the assault, Suzy recalls that her mother's concern appeared to focus more on whether her sister would be taken away by police than on the extent of Suzy's injuries. She remained exposed to her sister for several weeks before eventually moving in with her boyfriend. Her stepfather subsequently began physically assaulting her while she lay in bed and her mother was at work. Again, she said nothing. By then, silence had become something she had learned to practice. At 15, Suzy experienced another serious assault by her older brother, who had been recalled from Germany under the guise of compassionate leave. The attack followed an apparently ordinary disagreement about changing out of her school uniform. Suzy had returned home on a Friday and wanted to change. Her mother told her she could not and instructed her to peel potatoes. When she had finished, Suzy again said she was going to change. Her mother instead told her to make chips with her sister. As Suzy crossed the kitchen, picked up her books from the stairs and turned to put them down, her brother grabbed her from behind. He dragged her up 2 flights of stairs, kicked her back down them, and continued kicking her while she lay curled into a ball in a small ground floor room. When she managed to reach the front door and attempted to flee, he grabbed her by her clothing and attempted to garrote her. Later, Suzy was found wandering the streets with her boyfriend by her brother and the police and was forced home. The extreme violence that followed such an apparently ordinary domestic disagreement demonstrates how little an immediate trigger may reveal about the dynamics surrounding an assault. Suzy recalls an incident. She was about 13-year-old. She had placed her breakfast bowl in the kitchen sink, and as she did, her mother lunged at her with a cast-iron frying pan from the side and began attacking her. Smashing it over her head, Suzy buried her head in her arms to try and protect her head from the blows, and crumpled to the floor. As Suzy recalls this event, she has flashes in her mind of little sister and brother witness to the assault and appeared to have frozen. That wasn't the only attack by Suzy's mother against her. The use of the dog leash, a stick, and other implements all used to assault her daughter. The only time her mother ever told Suzy she loved her was when she was drunk. Money for the welfare of Suzy and her siblings spent on alcohol, cigarettes, and gambling on football pool. Suzy experienced so many more abuses and attacks from her mother, some showing in her medical records that Suzy was abusing alcohol at 17 years of age and using cannabis. No one asked the question, how on earth could a young woman get the money from for such habits? And over time, through the podcasts, we will return to Suzy and share her other experiences. But for now, let's return to Suzy's experiences dedicated for this podcast. At 22, Suzy was pressured by her mother and older sister to enter a relationship with a man she did not care for. She agreed largely to appease her mother and subsequently became pregnant with her 3rd son. The relationship became abusive. The child's father assaulted her 2 younger sons before turning his violence towards Suzy and breaking her arm. During the first trimester of the pregnancy, her older sister attacked her again, after which Suzy began to miscarry. Following advice from her GP, she remained on bed rest. The miscarriage stopped, and further testing confirmed that the pregnancy had continued. She subsequently gave birth to her son. By adulthood, violence had therefore become a recurring feature of Suzy's life, involving different family members and different relationships. She had witnessed violence, experienced violence, been instructed to remain silent, and encountered repeated circumstances in which individual incidents did not necessarily become part of a wider understanding of her experience. Her story also demonstrates why family violence cannot always be understood through fixed categories of victim and perpetrator. Her older brother had himself experienced violence before later perpetrating violence against her. Her mother could be subjected to violence while responding to violence against her children in ways that did not necessarily protect them. Her sister could experience instability within the family while also perpetrating serious violence against Suzy. None of this means that experiencing violence inevitably produces perpetration, nor does it excuse abusive behavior. It demonstrates instead that violence can operate through complex relationships in which individuals may occupy different positions across relationships and over time. Suzy's later experience of reporting abuse illustrates another difficulty. She recalls feeling that she was not believed because she could not provide the concrete evidence required to substantiate what she was saying. Evidence and due process are essential, but the absence of immediate corroboration does not establish that abuse did not occur. Domestic abuse can be concealed, sexual violence may occur without witnesses, and coercion, intimidation, and psychological abuse may leave little or no physical evidence. Professional assessment must therefore consider the totality of available information rather than equating an absence of visible evidence with an absence of harm. Suzy's experience is personal, but the safeguarding question it raises is broader. National safeguarding evidence demonstrates how frequently domestic abuse appears within cases involving serious harm to children. Analysis of serious child safeguarding incidents in England found domestic abuse present in 47% of serious incident notifications. Rapid reviews and local child safeguarding practice reviews during 2023-24, rising to 52% where the incident involved a child death. The Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel also reported that, in almost 9 out of 10 incidents examined, the child's family was known to children's social care through either an open case or previous involvement. More recent analysis by the Domestic Abuse Commissioner has reported domestic abuse in 55% of cases subject to a child safeguarding practice review. These figures do not establish that services failed in every case. They demonstrate something more specific. Being known to services does not necessarily mean that a child's experience has been understood. That distinction sits at the heart of Suzy's story. Her family saw violence. Her injuries were visible. At different points, police, social services, and health professionals became involved. Yet seeing an incident is not the same as understanding a pattern. It is also important to recognize the historical context of Suzy's childhood. These events occurred before the development of the contemporary safeguarding framework and should not simply be judged against systems and professional expectations that exist today. The purpose is not to impose modern safeguarding standards retrospectively, but to recognize how professional understanding of children exposed to violence has developed. Contemporary safeguarding places greater emphasis on the child's lived experience, information sharing, cumulative harm, and understanding apparently separate incidents within their wider context. Professional curiosity does not mean assuming the worst. It means being prepared to look beyond the presenting incident. What happened before this? Who else may have been affected? What has the child experienced? What is happening within the relationships around them? Could apparently separate incidents form part of a recognizable pattern? For Suzy, that pattern existed long before she had the words to describe it. She witnessed violence, experienced violence, was instructed to remain silent, suffered repeated assaults, and eventually became an adult survivor of further serious abuse. The question is not simply why she did not tell. The question is whether the adults around her asked enough questions to make telling possible. And when a frightened child runs from a home already known to professionals, perhaps one of the most important questions we can ask is simply, why did you run? If you have found this episode useful and would like to explore these subjects in greater depth, why not take a look at our educational series, Advanced Insights into Domestic Abuse and Violence. The series explores domestic abuse, coercive control, trauma, safeguarding, professional practice, law and support services in greater depth, bringing together research, professional perspectives, and lived experience. You can find the series on our website with the link provided in the description below. If you have found Beyond the Silence valuable, please consider subscribing and joining us for the next episode. Till the next time, take care, keep well, stay strong.